In a format where everything is broken, nothing is. This is Legacy, and it is the format I want to get in. But like most of us, it's hard to get in, since the price point is just way out of line. In this video, I will show you that with a budget less than a competitive modern deck, you too can win games. This is Mono Black Reanimator Legacy. The aim is to reanimate a big and effective creatures, draw cards, and disrupt your opponent until you win. In a format that almost all cards are available, let's see how this deck fares. Looking at this hand, this seems promising. It seems like we do have Thoughtseize to disrupt our opponent, make sure our spell comes through, a Collective Brutality to discard our Griselbrand, and an Animate Dead to reanimate our Griselbrand. Seems like a perfect one. Let's see. Let's start with a Thoughtseize. As you can see here, we have Brainstorm, Daze, Phyrexian, Dreadnought, and Swords to Plowshares. This tells me that this is some sort of a control shell, but with an added combo of Phyrexian, Dreadnought. From the hand, I think it's best to take Daze because that's the best card that could disrupt our combo onwards. I'll take Daze. Here, opponent just plays a land. It says go. Ooh, and we draw a Dark Ritual. Now we can execute our plan. Let's go for Dark Ritual. Two modes are Collective Brutality. Make them discard the card. Ooh, we see a Force of Will, a Brainstorm, and a Swords to Plowshares. That being said, I think the best thing to take here is Brainstorm because you can't activate your Force of Will without a blue card. And Brainstorm can find them an interaction card if we take Force of Will, or worse, if we take Swords to Plowshares. Then from here, I think we are on the clear, even though there's a Swords to Plowshares, because we can technically draw 14 cards. Do a Reanimate, draw 7 cards, and in response, our opponent should do a Force of or Swords to Plowshares. We draw 7 more cards, and from this position, it's hard to lose. We unmask and make sure we have a threat on board, so we're going to reanimate our Archon of Cruelty. Play our Lotus Petal and say go. Ooh, they drew a Jkarrrgh. Not a very good answer to our card. Archon, which is the reason why it's there. Going to attack. Let's play a land, discard Archon in case they do have a response with our top deck our Archon, and there you go. Off to the sideboard, we shaved a Animate Dead, Entomb, and Exhume, and we just put in 3 Feed the Swarm. I'm figuring that they may be putting in a couple of enchantment hates to hate on our graveyard, but I feel that Feed the Swarm should be able to answer those types of issues. This hand looks odd. We do have Entomb and a creature, however, we don't have a way to discard it nor to reanimate it, so I'm going to ship it back. We shipped it back, and from this hand, I feel that we do have a way to discard any big monster that we top deck, so that's why we're going to keep it. We're going to bring back a Reanimate. I think it's better to have an answer to any of their sideboard in the form of Feed the Swarm. If we top deck a big creature, we can discard it via Collective Brutality, or even if we top deck the better card, which is Entomb, and I think we can go off. Opponent starts off with a fetch land, Pondra into a Delver. Ooh. From this position, we can Grief. We top deck Grief, and I feel that this is a better line because we can technically get 2/4/2 with this type of card plus a body of 3/2. It's a threat. At the same time, we can answer the Delver of Secrets with our Collective Brutality. We're going to take Daze because the opponent only has Force of Negation with no other blue card. And from there, we can reanimate, take the Swords to Plowshares, and say go. Opponent didn't flip. There's an Unmask. We're going to attack. And I'm not sure why they didn't attack because our creature has Menace. So that means we have a way to be unblockable. And from here, I'm just going to fire off our Collective Brutality and take Unmasks. Primarily because we know that they have Force of Negation, 1 more land, and the Force of Negation becomes active. It's better now to answer both Delver and discard the negation. Yep, we're going to take that Force of Negation with an Animate on our hand and pass the turn. Let's ponder. All of them are top. Not a good sign for us. Going to attack. Here's the Mycosynth Garden, and I believe this is their combo. Garden, copy the Phyrexian, and then sacrifice the Garden at the same time. That's a 12/12, and that's a DRC. We are very much in trouble But we did top deck our Feed the Swarm. Take just 1 life with a Dreadnought and race again with Grief. Gonna take 3 damage here. And from this position, we're just hoping that they don't top deck any Reanimate stuff. We're going to attack. And if you notice, our hand is primed to win. Because end of turn, we can do Entomb. And then if we top deck a black card, we can Grief to protect our Entomb creature. And seal the deal. Opponent top deck a Ether Sworn Canonist. And I believe this is a way for them to stop us from heavily disrupting their hand. But I feel that it's already too late. I'm going to take that damage. End of turn, we're going to Entomb. And then this first position, I'm very much confident that their 1 card could only be Daze that could disrupt us. Luckily, we top deck a Swamp. And then from there, we're just going to go Animate Dead for the win. And attack with our Grief. So as we could see, the graveyard strategy is resilient in this specific format. In fact, it's actually top 3 or top 4 on the current meta as the time of recording. That being said, if you want more examples, let's proceed to the next game. Right, we're lucky again. We're on the play. Looking at this hand, it doesn't have a land, so we're going to mulligan. This one doesn't have any form of reanimation of turn 1, turn 2. We're going to ship it back. The power of reanimation is the first turn or the second turn. If you feel that your hand can't do that, you might as well mulligan. Ooh. This is, albeit risky, we can definitely keep this. We can bottom a Swamp and either an Animate Dead so that we can unmask ourselves, targeting Archon and Reanimate. So what we're gonna do, opponent sees it and scoops it up. This tells me that their deck is not geared towards reanimation strategies. Therefore, it could be a non-counter spell deck, or they did have a counter spell in hand but cannot be casted, and they don't have an effective way to remove Archon of Cruelty. They could be Elves. Most likely this is Elves because Archon of Cruelty definitely wrecks that specific deck. Let's see. Onto the sideboard, we put in 3 Feed the Swarm, 2 Liliana, and 2 Sheoldred. We remove 2 Exhume, 2 Unmask, 1 Thoughtseize, 1 Archon of Cruelty, and 1 Griselbrand. This looks like a hand that we can keep. There is Grief that we can reanimate. There's also Griselbrand that we can discard. We even have an option to draw a card on our turn and just discard Griselbrand. So, seems like good to me. Oh no! Opponent casts Grafdigger's Cage immediately on turn 1. We don't have an answer for this because our deck is mono black and we don't have a way to remove artifact such as this, and this definitely stops our deck from reanimating any spells from any graveyard. But I think we can get away with our hand. Gonna put in a land. Since our opponent doesn't have an actual threat and we drew a Lake of the Dead, we do have a plan to cast Griselbrand on turn 4. Let's ponder. And City of Traitor. This tells me that this deck is playing Show and Tell. And because we drew Archon of Cruelty, that should deter any Griselbrand shenanigans. Lotus Petal, another Lotus Petal. This should be able to give us a way to hardcast Grief. And next turn, we can cast our Griselbrand because we do have Lake of the Dead. Looking at their hand, they only have big monsters such as Griselbrand and Atraxa, Grand Unifier. So I think we are poised to hardcast our Griselbrand. Opponent passes the turn. We also have an Unmask. In this case, we're going to attack first, take some damage, and then protect our combo with Unmask. When I say combo, just hardcasting Griselbrand. Oh, that's a surgical extraction, so I think we are poised to go off. Float some mana, play Lake of the Dead, sacrifice a Swamp, that's 7, sacrifice Lotus Petal, we can cast Griselbrand now. Draw 7 cards. From this position, it's very hard to lose. We're looking for a way to disrupt our opponent. We found one in a way of Grief. We're going to discard Atraxa, so they don't have a choice just to play Atraxa. Alright, they went with Atraxa. We put in a Archon of Cruelty, just anticipated, and opponent can draw some cards, and folded to the combo. That was nice. Although I was saying combo all the time, I'm referring to the game plan of Reanimate. It is a sort of pseudo combo where all it needs to do is to draw enough cards so that it can disrupt you and beat you down with its big creatures. Alright, we're on the play here. This hand looks perfect, however, it feels that we need to unmask ourselves and also be able to Thoughtseize our opponent. Unfortunate that the land is Lake of the Dead. If it was a swamp, it's going to be a keep. So we're gonna mulligan. Again, this is a hand that can't do anything on turn 1. And please note that we're just playing one Lake of the Dead. Not sure why it's there again. Alright, this is the third turn or the third mulligan. And I feel that this hand we can definitely keep. We do have a Reanimate, Thoughtseize, a way to disrupt our opponent, a way to discard or find our big creatures to protect our combo. So yeah, definitely a keep. We're going to we did bottom Griselbrand and Unmasked because we want to be able to draw into the Unmasked. And plus we do have Grief here. We started with Grief, pitching Thoughtseize. We took Brainstorm because their deck has 2 Once Upon a Time, and I feel that they only have 1 land, so Once Upon a Time should take a land, or worst comes to worst is going to be Endurance, but let's see. Opponent put in the land, and just passes the turn. We're going to Entomb, put in Griselbrand, and hope that we don't get Endurance. Prismatic Vista fetches no covered island, Once Upon a Time for an Uro, and here we go. Off to the races. Again, from this position, it's very hard to lose. I'm going to take Shardless Agent because we don't know what that means. We're going to Thoughtseize again and take Once Upon a Time. We're going to let Harpy happen because, or Snow Fang Cottle, because it's not that touch as of yet, and we can Collective Brutality, gain some life. And yes, I'm just going to go through the motion here. Reanimate. Opponent's trying to find a way to disrupt our play and just passes the turn. That's 1 win for the good guys. Alright, since they're playing Alluren, so on the sideboard we're gonna go 4 Dauthi Voidwalker to take care of their graveyard because they're playing an Uro strategy. We're also going to put in Liliana, 2 Grave Titans, and 2 Sheoldred because I feel that their deck is geared towards drawing a lot of cards, and that's a way to punish them. We're going to take out 4 Exhumes because they're a creature-heavy deck, 2 Archons, 1 Griselbrand, 1 Thoughtseize, 1 Unmask, and 1 Collective Brutality. And let's go. They're on the play. This hand looks promising, but again, underwhelming. This hand has a lot of disruptions. We also have Animate Dead, Thoughtseize. We're going to keep this. We bottom a Liliana. Went for Once Upon a Time Endurance. They pondered, and here we can Thoughtseize. Ooh, 2 Endurance, 1 Force of Will. We're gonna take 1 Endurance. Pass the turn. Just put in a land. From there, we're gonna Grief. Try to take away the other Endurance. But remember, they do have a Force of Will. Now they do have a green or a blue card to pitch to Force of Will. So this is going to be tricky. They took away for Baleful Strix. We're going to Entomb in response. Lucky they didn't counter. They're going to go for Strix. And our next play is to draw a black card, cast Grief, and Reanimate. That's what we're going to do. Let's see what our opponent has. We take the Force of Will, leave the creatures behind, and from this position, again, it's very hard to lose. We're going to Griselbrand twice because they don't have a direct damage, and we're going to wreck their hand, disrupt their hand, and control the board. Dark Ritual into Liliana, my favorite move. Collective Brutality, 2 modes, drain and discard Archon, and discard each card. Discard Griselbrand, definitely a beating for our opponent here. We're going to Thoughtseize, take the Brainstorm, make them sacrifice, attack them, gain some life, and reanimate their Endurance, and win the game. So as we could see, the deck is very resilient. Although we don't have any fetch lands or any dual lands because we're monocolored, we are able to interact and win against most of the viable decks out there in the metagame. I feel that this deck definitely would need some practice to win. You need to understand what the meta is about and therefore plan your mulligan strategies around it. That being said, this deck is very fun, cheap, and most of the cards are available in the current market or even in Modern. Alright, that's it. Now if you enjoyed the gameplay, subscribe to your boy and give it a thumbs up. Let me know on the comment section down below what type of deck I should be playing in the next Modern gameplay. That's it. See you in the next one.